Thanks. Okay, we're back. And we're going to talk about Daisy Buchanan. Before I ask what you think of her, I want to take a quick poll. We have an entirely female class here. How many of you like Daisy? We have one and a whole lot of no answer. How many of you dislike Daisy? No answer on that either. What, Kaylee, do you suppose I would have to do to wring an answer out of you? You don't know what it would take for me to be able to get an opinion from you on Daisy? No, you don't, which is why I'm just asking you now whether or not you like her. From a just, having met her a little bit. Robin? Seems like she could stand up for herself. And so that's a positive trait, I think. Although maybe in the 1920s, not everyone would agree that a woman who could stand up for herself was a positive trait. We can allow for that interpretation. But certainly for most of us, we'd consider that to be positive. What do we not like about her?
I mean, that quote specifically isn't really a great trait to have in a person, especially a person who's raising a daughter to be what she believes is the ideal.
So, the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool. I was kind of hoping that you ladies would react to that a little bit more strongly. Is that okay with you, Kaylee?
I guess in that case.
Well, that was almost an opinion. All right, I'll take it. So, yeah, you should find that objectionable. It is objectionable. It tells us that Daisy is, well, there are a number of things it could tell us. So she says that she is, she admits that she's very sort of jaded about the world. Anybody remember the word that she uses? Sophisticated, I think, is the word. Does that ring a bell? She claims to be sophisticated in the sense of wise to the world. Now, a person who hopes that her daughter is pretty and foolish is there one possibility, is there one trait that we can say for certain that that person has? If they wish that for their daughter, I guess what I'm asking is there more than one way to interpret that? I think that there is. I think that there is.
In a time where it's easier for a girl to live a life when she's a fool, I think she just wants what's best for her kid, or what's easiest for them to deal with.
Okay, so
Because if she would have said that she wanted her child to be a genius, well, that's not really something that people strive towards.
So it's maybe not a matter as much of what she values for her daughter, but what she thinks the world values. Is that fair? She thinks that her daughter will have an easier time of life if she's pretty and foolish. Now, I think the Abby, you want to react to that?
Yeah, because like if her daughter is pretty, then she can attract like a husband, and if she's foolish, then she won't have to deal with the struggles of being like a woman who wants to go to college and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, also, perhaps it's occurred to you that this conversation is happening between Daisy and Nick while Tom is on the phone with his girlfriend. Daisy knows about Tom's girlfriend, right? I think they made that pretty clear. She knows about that. So this is part of her being jaded at the world. She doesn't feel like she has the option to like get a divorce or something like that. So she just wants to be foolish enough that she doesn't know enough to be unhappy. So ignorance is bliss. I'm going to give you the cliche. The less you know, the happier you are. Now, there is, especially in perhaps later chapters, there's a real tendency for people to develop an even stronger dislike for Daisy. So this isn't a particularly likable thing that she says here, but it's perhaps understandable. She's got a lot of advantages, right? Like she's ridiculously wealthy, and but her husband is having an affair, and she's not terribly happy about that. She doesn't seem super into parenthood. So she's not a super happy person, despite all of her advantages. So it's hard to have a lot of sympathy for her. Also, it becomes clearer the more you go on that she's just kind of shallow. She's just kind of shallow. So she's all about surface. And it doesn't make her terribly sympathetic, particularly not sympathetic to those of us who are not fabulously wealthy, which I think would be all of us. So we can't relate to having that many serving staff in our houses and things like that. She doesn't do anything for a living. She just exists and orders servants around. So it's pretty hard to have a lot of sympathy for anyone on that count. But she mopes and is shallow and orders servants around, and so not particularly relatable, perhaps would be the word. Not especially relatable, and not especially sympathetic as a character. However, despite her not being particularly sympathetic as a character, we still are going to feel bad for somebody whose husband is cheating on them. I think that's a fairly natural reaction. Like we should kind of feel that a little bit. So we are a bit conflicted in how we feel about Daisy. And that, again, is probably how it should be. And if you think about, I don't know, let's say movies that you like, for the most part, you need to like the main characters and dislike the main villains. Like they need to make that happen in a short order of time. You can't be conflicted about whether or not you like them, or you're not going to really buy in right? Now, there are exceptions to this, and that's where things get fairly literary. But Daisy is a very important character in the book, and Fitzgerald makes it sort of difficult for us to really like her as much as maybe we should. And so that is an interesting choice. And perhaps we can leave it at that for now, that it's an interesting choice. But let's keep it in the back of our minds that there likely is some reason for that choice. And there, aside from just, an attempt to mirror the real world in which we rarely are 100% sure of anyone. We're rarely 100% really liking or really disliking anyone. Most people fall into that large gray area in the middle. And so maybe it's just that, but I'm suggesting that maybe it's more than that. Okay, the next character we have, I think, is Tom.